Gonna get a little more done on the 69 Camaro today. Just took out my coilovers that I bought years back on eBay, actually from a team that used to race a C6. They're spares, they've never been used. So they're very nice. They're Bilsteins. And they're built beautifully. They have the integrated bump stops. They're so well made. I can get that to focus in there. So they're designed specifically for the C6 suspension, and they're got a bearing in each end. Very nicely made. So I don't know what, and they're 10 adjustment on the compression and the rebound. So I'll put these in place. The length seems to be right for the ride height that I'm going for. I have about 60% of the travel in compression and about 40% for rebound. And from what I've read, that seems to be about right. So I'm gonna come down that far to get the bolt in. The bottom section there is sitting where it needs to be. Just wanted to check that, so that'll fit in nicely. And then that's one of the fronts. Here's one of the rears. Actually got a really good deal on these. Bought 2 sets and then sold a set to a friend who raced a C6, which he has since sold. So that's the rear in place there. Sorry, the lighting's terrible under here. That's the rear in place, and that's how much you got to come down to get the upper mount to fit. And it's going to be very close to my coil spring there. I have to check that. See if I'm going to have enough clearance. Sorry. It's hard to get a good shot on, but there is not a lot of room there. Let's see what it's like. Oh no, it's perfectly fine. I'm just not looking at it with the arm in the right position. The arm wasn't in front there, so we got lots of space to the controller. Very good. So I have to weld those tops in. I just wanted to make sure these were gonna offer me enough compression and rebound before I put them in, so it's going to work at my ride height. Okay, I got the front rails out again. I put the lower rails in, measured the width between them, the upper rails. I put the lower rails in behind them and scribed this line on the side to show me where they were crossing, and I cut a slot in the bottom where I'm hoping this is going to intersect so I can get a weld through from the bottom. This it's hard to do with one hand, I apologize. Sits in there like that. So that will get welded all around there, across the front, and this side. need to cut this one out and then place them back in the car and hopefully tack them in place. And this front section here is going to continue to overhang. This comes very close to the front section here where the subframe mounts. So I'm going to gusset this up into this, and this up into the front subframe so that that possible hinge point there will be much more secure. So I'm happy with the fit on that. That turned out well. Okay, a little more work on the 69. I have the front frame rail sections clamped in, clamp there. The lower pieces that continue back to the area below the front seat. Goes around and modified the front bracket that I got from Gordy at Night Restorations. It used to continue back here if you see in the earlier videos and come across, but because I tipped this down instead of continuing straight through to get a little more clearance for my steering column. So the cap that goes over here will continue around, end at this joint, and then I'll gusset that in there. Around this side I have the wheel off now, so you can see in here a little better. Here's where we come down here. This rail pockets right into here and it continues down to the bottom, and then you can see I've cut a slot there, and there's also one at the front. This upper rail meets the bottom and that'll get welded across that flange, so it gives it a little more support. Back here, so I welded a tube in there. There's the bolt. The end of both of these will get capped, and then once everything is good and I get an alignment done on the car, I'm gonna get an alignment done before I connect these two, because there's still some adjustment in these bolts to maneuver a little here and there. I measured it 20 or 30 times and I'm sure it's exact, but I'm using a tape measure, so I'd rather get it on an alignment machine and make sure that it can align. I have a little adjustment in the front. Once I know it's aligned, then I'll put a bracket across these two and weld those together. And then if there ever is any need to remove it, a collision, whatever, I can cut this and the front can be removed. This is going to get closed in on both sides, so that will be closed in like that. So this lower rail here now continues right out to where the subframe mount is. So I know it's not the same as having a full frame, but I don't want to cut the floors out of this car. There's just so few cars left with the original floor pan in it. And then this will get cut on the same angle as this comes down, and then I'll cap the front. And obviously there'll be a gusset on the other side of this as well. That'll close that in. I think it'll add some strength and really add no weight. So that's that side. The other side is the same. No need to go over there. So now that I know it all fits, I'm going to take it all apart, clean everything up nicely with some isopropyl alcohol, and paint it all with some self-etching weld-through primer. Then I'll put it all back together and get some tacks on it and weld as much stuff solid as I can in the car. Like across here, can get a good weld here. I can weld the, well, anything that's an uphill weld, I'm going to wait until my welder comes by. I have a friend who's a professional welder, who's going to come by and do that stuff for me. So I'm going to tack everything and probably just do a few welds, let it all cool while everything is clamped in place in the car. And hopefully we can weld 90% of it. We should be able to get in here. Back behind here we won't be able to get until it comes out, obviously. In here we can probably get from the wheel well. These gussets can all be done. This can be welded. All this stuff up here can be welded while it's in the car. So, okay, hopefully on the next one we'll have everything primed and tacked back in again. Okay, got everything primed up in weld-through primer. And just some tacks at a few locations to hold it all in place on each side, down here, one in the corner there, one down below, and then around here. It's got one on the inside. That one's a little tough to get, but so the next thing will be to build a small fixture off of the table here to hold this and this with I'll probably use a piece of angle. I've got some angle, and I'll run it across the front, drill a hole up through the bottom of the angle and into the rectangular tube at the front here and here, bolt that down, and do the same at the back. That way when I remove this, because I have to cut these temporary tacks off and remove this in order to get this out, because it won't come out any other way at this point. The rear legs can't tip down without hitting the frame table. So I just want to make sure when I put it back in, it's going back to this exact spot. So it'll come out. I'll do as much welding as possible here. It'll come out, get finish welded and painted. And then the sections of the floor that are above here that I can't get at with the frame in place will be all cleaned, epoxy primed, and painted as well while the frame is out. And then when it goes back in, there'll be a little bit of welding to do there, a plate across each of those, and that'll be the frame back in for its final location. And then there's still a million other things to do, but that'll be one thing off the list at least. After that will be the engine placement and cutting more firewall out.